The relations between Russia and Pakistan are constantly evolving, and we always had positive dynamics. I would say that since the independence of Russia, since 1991, everything was always growing and increasing. Indeed, in Soviet times, even during the Cold War, we had joint economic projects. In particular, the famous Karachinsky metallurgical plant was built in 1985 by Soviet specialists, just during the war in Afghanistan, during the Cold War. Then, as far as I know, the oil and gas industry was also built in Pakistan with the help of Soviet specialists. Let's say that this is a process of continuity. I would not say that something revolutionary happened in recent years. We always had normal relations with Pakistan. They are limited for a number of reasons, comparing with India, for example. Nevertheless, they are, if not friendly, but at least constructive, positive, and stable. I think that this is a very important question that you have raised now. That is really important that people should learn more about each other. And the government of Russian Federation takes certain measures in this direction. And cultural workers take part in it too. As for the government, we have a certain quota for Pakistanis in Russian universities, at the expense of the federal budget. It is still small, 17, but as people say, we do what we can. This will increase. Recently, there was a festival. It is called Islamabad Fest 2019. It took place just recently, literally. And we, with the permission of the owners of the rights, showed the movie Siberian Barber by Nikita Mikhalkov. It was a pleasure for the people. They applauded. As for the days of culture, we will also think about it. But here we must take into account such an important thing, that Pakistan is still quite in a specific condition now. Not everyone wants to go there. There is such a stereotype. But in some way, it is also true that it can be dangerous. The stereotype, I mean. But you are here in Islamabad, and you see that nothing is happening. On the other hand, if we compare the risks, then of course there is some kind of terrorist risk here. We try not to overreact on it. That is summing up the answer to your question. This humanitarian direction is very important. Of course, we should make more efforts, and some specific steps are already being taken. We always give a visa, and I can tell you this with the responsibility as an ambassador, to those who can convince us that they are really tourists, and they really have money, and really capable of providing their stay in the Russian Federation. But at the same time, of course, like any normal country, in case of any inconsistencies are revealed during the interview, or we have suspicions that a person may become a potential illegal immigrant, naturally, we will prevent this. We did it, and we will. As for the Russians, there are no problems at all. The Pakistani country is always very friendly to them. You correctly noted that here is a specific type of tourism, mainly mountain climbing. People come, conquer the peaks, set records. For example, our team, the Russian national climbing team, was the first to conquer K2 10 years ago. This is the most difficult mountaineering route along the Western Wall. It is truly the most difficult route in the world. It is harder than Everest. This K2 mountain itself is the second largest, but for sure is the hardest for climbing. They set a record here, but not only professionals come here. Sometimes it happens that people get into a difficult situation in the mountains. Fortunately, unfrequently, we're very grateful for the responsible attitude of the Russians here. As a rule, adequate people come, and they understand where they go, at whose invitation. They are working on a route. The most important thing, that they get a consular register. Therefore, thank God, unfrequently, we get involved mainly when there are some problems with the mountain climbers, some kind of cataclysm, some kind of accident, and we have to work it out politically, including the head of government of the Russian Federation, along with the Ministry of Emergencies. Sometimes it happens that our side has to organize special flights to deliver the wounded home. I mean these climbers. But in general, all the stories about Russian tourists, as it was in Nasha Russia TV series, they are all in the past. We have some of the best tourists in terms of their behavior. We can be proud of them. Absolutely capable for tourism. But here, like we say in Russia, in Soviet times, it is more like resting as a savage, to make it clear. Something for a person who is unpretentious. He took a backpack, and he will always find a piece of bread. The food is very cheap here. It's a lie that Pakistan is starving. Here people do not starve. You will always find bread, you will always find rice bowl, you will always find clean, relatively cheap place to stay. No problem. The problem is that because of the beginning of the Afghan war, then the American intervention, they have all these disasters in Afghanistan or in the surrounding areas. And it can be dangerous because of the terrorists. They have the infrastructure. They have the infrastructure. They have the infrastructure. They have the infrastructure here. They have the infrastructure here. But it is a little bit like the Wild West. When you arrived, you must protect and take care of yourself. Take the safe routes. Here, for example, if you go to Lahore, the cultural capital of Pakistan, then naturally there will be no problems. Here is a beautiful highway, for example. If you drive from Islamabad airport, there are only 3 hours. It is made by the world standard. South Korea has built it. If you go to the north of Pakistan, to the northern territories, then there are no problems either. It is possible to meet the extremists there, but it happens not so often. The risk is not very big. But there is another thing. When you go to Pakistan, you need to have a permission to visit some areas, because military people can stop you and ask, "Is there a permission?" No? Bye. Turn around. Just for you to know, not to waste your time and money in vain. As for textiles, here the situation is unusual for us, I think. We should learn from them how to produce textile. because they are far ahead of us in terms of textile quality, and they work with the American, British, Canadian, Australian, New Zealand markets successfully. Therefore, I would recommend to Ivanova textile centers to think about going into cooperation with Pakistan. There is another question: creating a joint venture. We have talked about this many times. Maybe this idea is not in demand yet. Why not in demand? I can only guess. I think one of the reasons, and you mentioned it before, it is the language barrier. Because still, here it is Urdu, and there is Russian language. The second reason is that Pakistanis are doing well. Their textile production operates at full load. And by the way, if you go to some Russian jeanswear stores, it's very likely that Made in Pakistan will be written on these jeans. If there will be such an idea to make an exhibition, then the embassy and trade mission will provide all the necessary organizational and political assistance. But of course, it should be financed by those people who want to promote their products here. As for Russia, we conduct a lot of various exhibitions. For example, the annual Innerprom exhibition in Yekaterinburg and the St. Petersburg Economical Forum. I will tell you in confidence, many Pakistanis say, give us an assistance in restoring communication and so on. I tell them, you can register, get a visa, buy a plane ticket, go to St. Petersburg, and there you will make an excellent contact. There are no problems for those who want to engage in a direct dialogue. There are no problems now on our side. In this regard, Pakistanis are orientated towards the Western market. I think we just need to calmly wait for Russia to develop normally, to develop internally, and then everything will be fine. Not so much time have passed. How long are we developing in this way, in an independent direction? A little more than 10 years. But time must pass. Everything is fine.